Today on Adversity to Strength, I'm joined by Amanda J. Scott. Amanda spent 17 years in a relationship defined by emotional and financial abuse, a reality that often stays hidden behind shame, silence, and self-doubt. Isolated from support, with two daughters and very little access to money, she found herself in a situation many people feel unable to leave, even when they know something isn't right. In this conversation, we explore what that actually looked like day to day, how abuse becomes normalized over time, and what it takes to reach the point where leaving becomes possible. Amanda shares the psychological impact of long term abuse, the loss of self worth, and the difficult, often slow process of rebuilding life afterwards. She's now the author of Finding My Way Back to Me, but today's focus is on the lived experience behind that, what it felt like, what kept her there, and what ultimately changed. Amanda, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate the time as well. It's great to finally get to speak with you.
Lovely, Lee. Thank you very much for having me on your show, and hello to all the listeners. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. And take us back to the beginning. Where did your story start with everything?
Well, I think I lived I experienced domestic abuse in a marriage for 17 years, but Lee, for the longest time of that, I didn't realize it was abuse, because abuse does. It takes many forms and it's often hidden, whether it's emotional or physical or financial or sexual or even spiritual abuse. It creates that feeling of shame in the abuse that keep them stuck. Nobody wants to feel unloved and uncared for, and so we make excuses for our partner's behavior rather than accept the truth that I was being abused. So, in
Yeah.
my case, abuse grew very slowly. And what started off, I think, as one incident of disrespect became, two and a three, until eventually it became the way I lived. I was told I was stupid. So it didn't take long for me to believe that. And that meant each time I was treated badly, it became my fault because I thought if I was better, things
Yeah.
would be better. So it happens slowly.
Yeah. Yeah. You find that you're chasing it, and you're never going to reach it because the issue's with them, but you don't know that at the time.
No, absolutely not. No. So, I think the first and the most powerful thing or a step um, I could take, or a woman could take in that situation, is to admit and acknowledge that she is in an abusive relationship. Um, and it might sound very simple to somebody on the outside, but when you're actually living in it, it's one of the hardest things to face. Yeah.
When did you realize you know what, I'm actually in an abusive relationship, I'm in a toxic relationship?
Well, I think one day a friend, she mentioned how I'd been disrespected and
Yeah.
what I'd normalized for years. And I think really that planted a seed that I couldn't ignore. Um, on one occasion, I was out in the park and returning to the car. I found 12 missed calls on my phone. I was, uh, you know, I was shocked actually. I thought something really bad had happened. And
Yeah.
this was all from my husband, 12 missed calls. And I called to find out what was happening. But where have you been? Why haven't you been answering your phone? You have a phone, pick it up. I've been waiting here for my lunch. So this was really the beginning of the end um, because the truth is that you don't need anybody else's permission to call it abuse. If it
No.
feels wrong, and I knew it didn't feel right, if it feels wrong, if you feel small, trapped, or constantly questioning your worth, that
Yeah.
is enough. You don't have to wait for it to get worse.
No.
So then came the affair. And I often say to myself, I question myself, would I have stayed in this relationship hadn't it been that for that? Because that was really something that betrayal, ripped off the blindfold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was faced with the choice: do I either stay in this marriage or do I um, go? And uh, so I decided, yes, I made that decision, and it's a tough decision. But not
Yeah.
only is that a tough decision, it's staying the course that's even
Yeah.
tougher. Mm.
Definitely. Because when you end a, even in a non-toxic relationship, um, you end a relationship, especially if you're the one that does and the other person doesn't want to, the guilt, especially if you've got children involved there, and your brain filters you to, it wasn't so bad, let's go back. And it's very hard to get out of that familiarity, even if it's toxic.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
certainly showed a lot of strength to do that. Tell me a little bit about that. When did you, what was the moment when you thought, I'm out of here, I've decided, that's me done?
I think it was, I mean, my boundary, that boundary was the affair, I think. And I think it's different for other people. But for me, and there is never any clear, um, you know, um, indication of when the turning point is. I mean, for a lot of people, it's actually when that physical violence finally happens. But for me, I think it was when the I discovered he was having an affair. And that was no to me. That was a thing that said no. Because I'd put up with all that disrespect that, I kept on putting up with it. And this is what we do. We just keep on putting up with the things until we get that friend who says, hey, here, something's wrong. And that's why it's so important to maintain your friendships because they are the
Yeah,
backbone to your path
yeah,
forward. And that's, when my eyes sort of woke up to what was going on. And I think you need to have clarity. What is a healthy relationship? Because often we think, oh, it is normal. Yes, it is normal to be
yeah,
disrespected in a relationship. So I think that it's important to have clarity. So what is a healthy relationship is a place of safety, of love, of mutual respect. But you see, when you've got abuse there, it strips away at those foundations and
yeah.
it leaves you living in survival.
Yeah, you're on
Yeah.
eggshells. Your confidence is rock bottom. You question everything, the self-esteem, and you become a shell of a person. I've had many clients,
Yeah.
male and female, come to me, and they've been like mentally destroyed by an abusive, toxic partner, often somebody that's very narcissistic.
Absolutely, yeah. And the emotional and the financial.
Yeah,
Because what happens with the emotional, then it enables the financial in some cases, yeah. So you stop questioning your partner's decisions because all you want is peace and the
yeah,
constant tension in the house to be relieved. So you do what you're told, hoping
yeah,
they'd be better.
yeah. How long into the relationship when you look back now, did you think things are not right? You might not have realized at the time, but when you look
Oh,
back
yeah,
now, because they're usually often there, I say it to
absolutely.
clients, they're there from day one, but we often ignore them,
Yeah.
focus on something else, play it down, but they're usually there at the beginning.
Absolutely. And at the beginning, yes, there was. But you see, I was convinced that my husband loved me. Back
Hmm.
then, when he called me 12 times a day to find out where I was, what I was doing, and where, when I'd be back home, in my mind, I thought he loved and cared for me so much. And
Yeah,
when he criticized the friends I had, At the early time of our relationship, in my mind, I thought that he was concerned for my well-being. Because in
Yeah.
fact, I think I had to believe that because I wanted to be loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
didn't see it as control. I saw it as love and protection because
Yeah.
that's what I thought it was.
Yeah. And often with a lot of people that get involved in toxic relationships, they've come from often like a not a great childhood. They've not received like the love they should have got, all the usual things like an absent parent or whatever it might be
Mm.
that's caused that, and they've got these insecurities. They've got a belief system, so they're not going to see the warning signs in the same way that somebody else might there. So it's easy done. And if you don't know any better, if you don't know what your boundaries are, if you've not seen how like a loving parents are often is the
Yeah.
case, then you go with what I'll guess that's it. Even if it's terrible, maybe this is normal.
Absolutely. I mean, I hadn't done any self-development or
Yeah.
personal development at all, so I didn't even know what a boundary was. But
No,
yes, it often happens. And yes, my father did have an affair. And it's funny because it just repeated through my, uh, you know, through my marriage. And yes, it was not. My mother stayed, but no, it was not. It was one thing that really I wasn't going to put up with. And that's the
yeah,
thing. But, looking back, yes. And then after that, there was even more. Once I made that decision, there was even more disrespect, uh,
yeah,
of course, because how could I leave the family? Um,
yeah,
and, you do need to be, you need to, just as you're going through that part, you need to know that you aren't doing anything wrong, that this is not love. This is not life. And
it's abuse.
yeah, absolutely. And I just constantly reminding yourself that you deserve to be happy, that no
Yeah,
one else's happiness is more important than yours,
yeah.
and that no one should, be constantly disrespected in any situation. And that's when, the shift began. I started to believe in myself.
When did you start? When did you first start to believe in yourself? Because that would have probably taken you a long journey to get to where you started to feel
Oh,
believing
oh,
in yourself.
absolutely. I mean, the starting point didn't happen after the abuse. It happened while I was going through it. But this first, it happened with small little acts of awareness in that environment that wasn't, it was just chaos. So really, uh, it all came from internal, feeling, no, this doesn't feel right. This isn't right. Um, Yeah. So and, and maybe at the beginning you can't really say much,
Yeah,
but at least you are aware of it internally and you know that it is not right. It doesn't feel right. And yes, yeah. So it's building up that, and it's building up that self-belief, because that's the start of everything, of changing everything in your world. I mean, the easiest thing is actually to blame others, but it's not until we know that we won't, we deserve more, and we won't accept abuse any longer, that things can start to change. um, but going through, it's because with abuse you abandon your own needs to keep the peace, but that's
yeah.
but that's not
Anything to keep
peace.
the
But
peace.
that isn't
No,
peace. It's not
no,
peace. So
no.
I found my peace going through it, and that,
How did you find out? Where was your peace at that time in that set of circumstances
at the park.
at the
At the
park?
park, yeah. This is where I had space to breathe, to feel, to
Yeah,
know, yes, this is what peace feels like. And I began to, yeah, go to the park to get rid of those emotions. You know, you build up those emotions and you suppress those
Yeah,
emotions. Well, they don't just disappear. You've got to get them out of your body because they're held in the body. There's a tension and exhaustion. So I used to, if I was upset, I used to cry around the park. I used to get mad and angry and get all my emotions out there at the park. And it's where I could just think, and I had time to think without other people wanting things from me, you know. So that is what I think's vital. Self-care is vital. And it was a
it's everything.
thread. It was a thread that kept me connected to myself when everything else was unraveling.
How did you feel after you went to the park and you felt a lot better? You got a lot of like anger and stress out, managed to like clear your mind, and then you had to go home. How did that
Well,
how
it
did that
felt
happen?
very strange. Because it didn't feel right then going home, did it? Because I'd been so used to
Mhm.
the you know, be lovely surroundings amongst the birds and the trees, and then suddenly going back to chaos. It didn't feel right. I knew then that I was doing the right decision. I was making the right decision. You know, I couldn't continue with living in those abusive situations any longer. Yeah.
How long before you actually dealt with it had you made your mind up? This is what I'm going to do because it's not always easy for people to lose. You're saying about like finances, that kind of thing. If you're like sharing a mortgage, if you're relying on somebody or whatever, you can't. Many times as a therapist, you've got clients that would love to leave, they can't. They're just in that position. They've got nowhere to go, so often it's very difficult.
Yes. But all you need is to make, acknowledge, and admit that you
Yeah.
are in an abusive situation.
Mm.
You might not have all the answers, and you might
Yeah.
not be ready to take the next step. But by
Yeah.
simply admitting it, it cracks open that door to freedom. And this is when you begin the journey back to you. There are places, there's counselors, there's, you know, there's women's shelters, there's
Yeah. Yeah.
friends, there's people that are there and they're there to help you, you know,
Just
and
get
it's
out.
amazing what happens once you make that decision. Yes. Something,
Tell-
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That relief once you're out of there, but obviously for you to get to that point would have
Oh,
took a lot of effort, and you're going to have to
absolutely.
face your
Yes.
husband slash abuser to, I'm guessing, to tell him that we're over and I'm leaving.
Yes. And you know, that's very difficult to begin with because
Yeah,
of course you're having conversations that, oh, what's wrong? You know, it's like, you know, you're changing because you're changing your values.
yeah,
You know, I'd lived in a world where I'd forgotten my values and I allowed other people to define them. But when you start uh, thinking, no, I'm going to start listening to myself, I'm going to start trusting my own instincts, then some people aren't happy with that. You start to have difficult conversations. You know, yeah, so you've got to start speaking your truth. But that's what I'm saying, you know, healing and getting through this, it doesn't happen all at once. You know, it's not a single decision, it's a daily commitment. But
yeah.
little time that you choose yourself, you know, when you go to that park instead of returning to chaos, when you rest, you know, when you cry, when you speak up, even though your voice is trembling, you are reclaiming those pieces of yourself. And that's what it is. It's about reclaiming pieces of yourself where you've lost, the pieces where you'd lost, to reclaim them slowly back. And that takes a bit of time. And that
When did
takes
you
strength.
first? When did you? It takes a lot of strength. When did you
Mm.
first realize I'm actually starting to reclaim myself again?
Whoa, I think it was the time when I actually stood up, and I felt good that I had actually stood up for myself, because I was
Yeah.
told to get out of the car, get out of that car. I was inside the car, and I said, no, I can do whatever I want. I am the queen, I said.
Mhm.
And I just, all of a sudden, I just felt, yes, I can. Why is somebody making me do something that I don't want to do?
Yeah.
Because for so many years, you know, when I was out at that park and I had that joy and I returned to the car, how can 1 minute I'd be full of joy and the next minute can be crying so much, how can somebody allow that to happen to me? But of course, it's all for my growth, all for my strength. That no, uh, we allow people to do that, and it's about really discovering me, discovering who I am, and coming back to me, finding myself, what I stand for, what are my boundaries, what does love mean to me? You see, I had no
Yeah.
idea. I never
No.
even thought about that.
What
But
did you do to start working on yourself there? You've managed to get out of there. So what happened once you got out of that environment there? What was the next stage of your life then? Because I'm guessing you're having to start over.
um, the next start, yes, I think it's important to do some self-development. Eventually I did. Eventually I did. But I keep on saying maintain um, friendships.
Yeah, that's
You
important.
only need one or two friends. You don't need many
Yeah.
friends, but you need ones that won't judge you, that just listen to you, that help
Yeah.
you with solutions to get out of that, yeah, to get out of that toxic
Yeah.
situation. And that's very, very important. And another thing was for me was, you know, don't tell yourself that you'll stay um, because of the children.
No, yeah, it's the worst thing to do. And
It's
even in a normal relationship, you leave for the children.
mm,
For me, you don't want you even if it's like you get on with your partner, but you've drifted apart. You don't want your children growing up thinking that's a normal, healthy relationship, and then to go on to repeat it. So for me, you leave for the children. How did you find
absolutely
doing that? How did you find doing that?
hard.
Because it's not easy. Yeah.
It's not easy, but I'm
No.
saying no. But that was my primary motivation, was to show my children the importance of self-respect.
Yeah.
It was. That's not
Yeah.
love. So,
No.
so that was number one to me. And it was the hardest thing of all. It was hard, but I needed to do it, and I needed to get my strength and from that, I needed to really, yes, while I was going through, who am I? Who am I meant to be? It's like you discover yourself, who you are, who you
Yes.
want to
Comes a
be.
new you.
Absolutely, you become a new
Yeah.
you. And what is true
Yeah.
to me, but I must say, one piece of advice is maintain your dignity and respect when you go through the breakup process. Because
Yeah.
my pepped up rage and humiliation meant that when I got the chance, I actually turned from the abused into the abuser. And I found myself
Yeah.
doing things I never thought possible. So after, one or two major incidents, I realized my desire for revenge was turning me, into a person like him. And I thought, no, I had to put a stop with it, because this is
Yeah.
what happens. I think there comes a part where anger meets that humiliation, and where pain
Yeah.
turns to fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why
It's
it's good
it.
to get to the park and let those emotions out,
Yeah.
because, yes, because it does. Because the truth is, when the pain's that bad, and that betrayal really would cut me very sharply,
Yeah.
revenge feels like justice, and it's not. Because for a
There's no
moment,
satisfaction. There's no satisfaction from it.
No. And those moments brought me face to the version that I didn't want to be.
Yeah,
And I thought,
yeah,
no, this is not me. I am about compassion and love and kindness. And
yeah.
this is who I am. Yeah. So, yes.
I understand the whole anger thing. For like my past experiences, it's easy to hold anger, and
Mm,
I remember doing that for a long time. And then I remember reading a quote. I can't remember exactly, but hating somebody is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. And I remember reading that, and I thought that is
mm,
so true. I'm going to get rid of the anger I've got towards the people that I do. And the way I can get my revenge is to live my life to the fullest, maximize it, and achieve all the things that I couldn't around those people or whatever it might have been there. And it's not
mm.
always easy, but for me, it was one of the best decisions that I made because you see people carrying anger around with them and hatred, and it's only them that's being affected.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's about, forgiveness, forgiving yourself, for going through that, and forgiving the other person because really the situation I was in had nothing to do with what I did or what I didn't do. It was simply because my husband was a deeply insecure man that
Of
needed
course.
absolute control. But because of
Yeah.
my lack of self-worth, I chose to accept it rather than
Yeah.
question that.
Yeah.
See? So when you've been abused, and it's the emotional and the financial abuse that are really hidden. They're really, uh, yeah, they really are silent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they really
Yeah.
do chip away at your self-worth. Yeah,
Yeah.
over
Yeah,
time.
I've seen it with clients that have come to me and they're like a shell of a person, literally a
Yes.
shell of a person. Big, strong guys, really lovely guys, and they just been destroyed over time.
Yeah.
Um, and to as a therapist, I'm saying, look, we can get you to where you need to go, but I warn you, it takes 3 times longer to overcome an abusive, toxic, narcissistic relationship than a normal breakup. And they're like, I was like, yeah. And then when we get in towards the end, they like, I see what you mean now.
Mm.
Because the mixed emotions you get that I'm so glad to get away from him, and then you get that I love them so much. I want to go back. We can figure it all out. And your brain tries to blind you from all of the things that you've just got away from there. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And it does take a long time and it's not, doesn't happen overnight. It does. But it's working on yourself. It's all about working on yourself, discovering yourself. You really get to find out who you are,
Yeah,
as I said, and then you start to have boundaries because those boundaries aren't walls built from fear. They're gates. They're
yeah,
gentle gates of love and self-respect. And they don't exist to shut people out. They exist to honor and nurture the peace that I've worked so hard to create. That's what they are. So yes. And in a healthy relationship, you can have boundaries and still be loved.
of course. Yeah. Again,
Absolutely.
as a therapist with boundaries, I talk about it every single day. How
Yes.
important it is to have boundaries, and I say the same thing over and over. If you don't have boundaries, you're the
Mm.
only one that will suffer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you allow anything or everything into your life. Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing, well, boundaries are so important because if you have, most of your friends won't even know what your boundaries are. They won't even
Yeah.
know because they're never going to test them. But then, if you got boundaries and somebody does test the boundaries, they've got two choices: they respect your boundaries and fall into line, or they leave. That's your
Mm.
choices. There's no grey for me in boundaries.
No, that's right. That's right. So, yes. So there's areas that you lose yourself in, and it's just getting yourself back to being yourself because you just want to be yourself in a relationship.
Yeah.
You don't want to be somebody else you're not, and
No.
it's like it's a shame to lose yourself. I mean, you know, I know the courage it takes to say enough, but I also know what's waiting on the other side. The freedom, the love, yes. And you're giving yourself all that. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's the least anyone deserves. It's the
absolutely.
minimum requirement.
Absolutely. And everybody deserves the opportunity to heal and grow from an abusive relationship. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
When was the moment you sat there, I don't know, glass of wine or something, and thought, I've taken my power back. I'm in control of my life. I feel good about myself. I like myself. When do you think that moment was?
Or towards the end of getting out of the abusive relationship, because, you know, when you've made the decision, that's one thing. And then you go through
Yeah.
that part and stay in that course, stay the course, the distance.
Mhm.
There's often that doubt that comes back,
Yeah,
oh my God, did I
definitely.
make that right decision? It's always going to be a bit of uncertainty because you don't know how you're going to manage. You don't know what you're going to do. There's so
Yeah.
much unknown,
Yeah.
so
That's the
much
that's the biggest
unknown.
fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that trust, just trusting, you know, and having some, yes, clarity. All I needed to know that there was light over there, that there was
Yeah.
sun, yeah, that it was going to be better. And I once saw a tarot card reader, and she said to me, yes, there are difficult times ahead of you, but at the end, there is that sun, there is that light. So I always believed that. This is how
Yeah.
you do it. I just believed.
Yeah.
Yes, she knew, that there was going to be sun. And I believed her. And I thought,
Yeah.
no, I know I'm going to get out of this. I know I'm
Yeah.
going there will be happiness one day. There will be lots of happiness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Uh,
just had to just go through everything and some tough times to get through that. But you can do it. And because what the alternative was going back. Well, I never
yeah.
wanted to go back.
No.
Not
No.
once I've made that decision, there was no going back. That was it. Yeah.
Never a doubt. Never a doubt.
No, no.
No. No. And did he know that?
I think it
Or
did.
did he,
Yes. I
he
think
did?
he did.
You made
Yeah.
it that clear. That's it.
No. Well, yes. Um, but he knew that I wouldn't go back. No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go
Yeah.
back because that was it. Yeah. And I think you've
Um,
got to be all in. I think if you make that
yeah.
decision, it's like stick to it because I was
Yeah.
just going to accept those things and that wasn't acceptable to me. Living like that
No.
was not acceptable to me. And yeah, that's when I think you start building that confidence. Yeah. But I think that really that confidence comes from clarity first.
If you got a clear perspective
You
on things, because you find,
absolutely.
and I'd imagine for yourself that you found your whole life was just a blur. You didn't know what was real,
No,
was that
no,
being nice? Is that critical? Are you controlling me? Are you caring for me? So to then get some clarity when you've broken free,
that's
again,
right.
takes you to the next level. Yeah,
Absolutely. But with that clarity, it's taking
yeah,
that action from that, because nothing happens if you don't take the action. No.
no. And that's the hardest part. People can sit there and they recognize everything and they know what
Yeah.
they need to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen it many times, and then people just don't act on it.
No.
They just can't. They can't bring themselves to do it. The fear's too great, or whatever it might be. They can't do it.
No, that's right. But it's everybody is at their own time, at their own
Yeah,
pace. Maybe it's not then, but something else will happen, and it's all yeah. It really is. Yeah, it's one of the hardest decisions to make, isn't it?
yeah.
Really. Yeah. So yes, I just look back and Lee, I wouldn't change a thing.
You wouldn't change a thing.
I would not change a thing.
How different is your life now as you as a person?
Oh, it's
Because you're doing
amazing
so much now.
because you're free. You can make your own decisions. You
Yeah,
can live. You are you. Oh, oh, sorry. What's happened here? Wait a minute.
all good with me. All good with me.
Okay, sorry. Um,
Carry on.
okay. So yes, you can make your own decisions. You can um be yourself. How good is it to be yourself? So, I wouldn't change a thing, but I really have learned a lot on the way. I had
What
to
are the things that you've really
speak
learnt the
up.
most?
I had
Yeah.
to speak up, and that was hard. When you express yourself, it's hard to stand up sometimes. And that's the most important thing, is to speak your truth, to trust your own self, to live life like it feels like yours. Yes, not shaped by fear or guilt or survival.
How did you first feel when you were making your own decisions, doing what you wanted, and you didn't have to answer to anyone, you didn't have to check your phone? Because sometimes people are still living in the past, even though they've moved, they're checking their phone and they're like, "Oh, I feel guilty. I'm like, should I do this? Should I not do this?" So to break free from that, how did you find all of those things?
Oh my gosh. It's incredible, Lee. It's incredible. It's relief. Your whole body, your health, you begin to be a completely different person and look different because you haven't
Yeah,
got that tension on you. You're not tense anymore. It's the most amazing feeling. It's so light. All my symptoms are gone because I had suffered from thyroid because I wasn't
yeah,
speaking up, and everything had gone. The pain, and because the pain in my life had gone, everything had left, and I was free. So this is the most inner peace and good health. You know, they
yeah,
don't grow in abusive soil. No, they thrive in
yeah,
healthy, respectful love.
yeah,
And respectful love that you give yourself, because that's what you're doing. You're giving yourself the love that you, you didn't before. You abandoned before. Yeah.
yeah. I always say that you're a product of the environment you're in.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and it's amazing how a person can change when they're away from somebody that's toxic, somebody that's negative, somebody that's critical, and they surround themselves with. I did
Yeah.
it. I cut out my family; they're all terrible. Surrounding myself with nice people, kind
Yeah.
people. What a surprise! My life feels so much better.
Yeah.
You know, the only regret
Absolutely.
is you never done it sooner. You know,
Yes, well, it does take your time, and it didn't matter. It was 17 years for me. At least I did it.
at least,
At
yeah,
least
yeah,
I came back to myself, and it doesn't matter how long it's taken you, um, to come back. It really doesn't. Um, so yes, but I wouldn't change a thing because it took me that long to build up my strength,
yeah,
to get to know who I was. And yes, uh and just to be able to say no, because often, it's hard to say no.
yeah.
But you work on yourself and you build yourself up. I found um writing was really good. Just writing down,
Oh,
writing down, writing
yeah,
down, because that was a place where my emotions could land. And
yeah,
yes, it was painful at first to write about the abuse and the betrayal and everything like that. But it was also liberating to write
yeah.
about rising, forgiving. Forgiving is a big one, yeah. And
That is a big one because that's hard to do,
yeah,
and some
yeah.
people can't.
But once you forgive, you release that shame, don't you? Then you release those things, and yeah, it's a whole discovery of yourself. And yeah, yeah, when you wake up. But really, what I really would love to do is get out there and to tell, women, I'm not. saying what you should do, and men as well, because it happens a lot to men.
Oh, it definitely. I've seen it
Yeah,
many times.
yeah. Is that, I'm not telling you what to do or what you shouldn't do, but I'm just saying if it doesn't feel right, you know, if you're
Listen
not
to your
feeling
body.
right, just listen to your body. That's the
Yeah,
thing. Just
I'm a
listen
big
to your
fan of that.
body. And it's just to just open that open the lid and just this conversation is to say, look, if it's anything's happening, it shouldn't be because that's not love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people listening to your story podcast will get a lot from the conversations that you do, but also there will always be people that are in a similar set of circumstances to
Mm.
yourself,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
and they if they can relate to you, then it actually makes often it might make it easier for them to start making some decisions in their life on how to go about changing things.
Yes. And they can see the similar things happening to them. Yeah. Yeah. And that's sad. I think that's why it's really important to, break the silence and to get out there, talk about it, because then more people say, yeah, you're right. This isn't right. This isn't love.
No.
I don't need to wait for the bruises and the broken bones. No, no. Emotional and financial erodes your soul over
Yeah.
time.
One of the quickest ways to do that, those ways.
Yeah.
What was the moment that made you decide that you wanted to speak out and help other people start writing about it, do the interviews on the podcast? What happened there then? How come you decided to do it? So a lot of people would have just carried on with their life.
Yeah, well, I think it's once, I got myself out, and had that freedom, I thought, well, what point is it if I don't share it with others,
Yeah,
really? Yeah. So, because, every woman, I believe, deserves the opportunity and that help. They want support. And this is the
yeah,
thing. It's important to have that support there. And often they don't know where to go or what to do. So just, yeah, just to be there and how important it is to have those people around you because you don't have to walk this road alone.
yeah. If you got support, it makes all of the difference. It makes so
Abs
much there.
Absolutely. So that's why I sort of got out. And because some women are still in it, abusive relationships, and they think still questioning themselves, am I doing the right thing? Even though they have the signs that they don't feel
Yeah,
comfortable in their own home, they question their worth, they're, walking on the eggshells and, they are putting up with the disrespect.
yeah, yeah.
And
And one of the biggest things people do is they ignore what their body's telling them. They ignore it.
that's right. And yeah. And the more you listen to that body, the more you will know what to do. And the more
Yeah,
you'll be directed. You either get a feeling, yeah, this feels good. Yes, go for it. Or you get that sign in your stomach, don't you? That knot in your stomach, and it goes,
yeah, yeah.
this doesn't feel right. And I am listening to those signs all the time now. I'm
Oh,
saying, I'm
yeah,
not going there. No, but, you know, absolutely I did. I wouldn't, I'd ignore them. And that is
yeah,
once you've got that and once you know, you will easily find out. And once you trust your own decision, you'll always be
yeah,
told.
yeah,
It's like crossing the road a little bit. When you cross a road, oh my gosh, you don't go, oh my gosh, I've got to hold back. Oh no, no, no. You stay calm. You stay calm and relaxed And you say, no, I think I'll wait until that car goes across. And oh, no, that's fine. It's clear now. So I'll walk across. You know, you don't need to have fear in the body. You instinctively know what to do.
Yeah.
So life is a little bit like crossing the road. You know, if you just stay, it's so important to have emotional stability.
Oh, without a doubt, everything
And
it
once you,
is everything if you've got emotional stability.
yeah, and then you can trust yourself, you know? You just know you've got that. You tune in with that then. You tune in with your own intuition, your own instincts. Yeah.
Yeah. Gut instinct tends to be accurate most of the time.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think you know, even today, it's all about looking after yourself, looking after your own needs. Don't wait until you get empty. I'm always
No.
topping myself up. Okay, do I need to go back to that bar? Because I'm going today. That's
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a constant thing. It's not like, wow, I'm out of that abusive relation. I don't need to. No, you're always working on yourself. You're always
Yeah. Yeah.
maintaining. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've done so well, come so far, and it's all good for you today. What's the future looking like for yourself there?
Fabulous. And you know, I like surprises. I'm not sure what's going to happen. And you know what? That's fantastic. But I know that when I'm doing the things, making my own choices, doing the things that I love to do, you know, that I'm happy and bringing in other people that amplify my own happiness. That's the thing. Because I'm still, you know, um, still those boundaries, you know, I've got those standards. And
Yeah.
yes, abuse doesn't just happen in relationships. It can happen with friends in your
Yeah.
workplace, in all over yes. So it's really about making sure it's all consistent all around.
Yeah.
Because if you let one little bit in, more will come in. So it's
Uh,
respect. If it doesn't feel right, if you're, you know, if things aren't amplifying your happiness, then no. No. And it's having really, you know, good connections that are, you know, caring and loving and respectful. Yeah.
yeah. And having good people around you is so important. I say it
Yes.
all the time. So important there.
Yeah.
And to maintain those friendships as well. Like you say, you don't need lots of them. You just need a
No,
couple of really good ones, and that makes such a difference there as well. Um,
absolutely.
I think the things that you said today, Amanda, would help anyone listening to you that have been in
Lovely.
similar or are in similar circumstances.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. I've loved every moment of you
Thank you, Ray.
coming on the podcast. So I really appreciate you taking the time out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on your show and hello and bye bye to all those listeners. And you know, if they need to reach me and any
Yeah.
questions asked, then please
Where can I get hold of you?
at amandajscott.com. And there's a book. Now, the book is a very short read, but it's a very powerful
Yeah.
read about everybody, you know, deserves to be treated with kindness and respect. And those are the 43 pivotal days it took me to change my life, you know, where I was forced to make decisions and go beyond my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so on that website, if they want to reach any questions or
Yeah.
anything they want to feel free, please. I'll personally reply. And there's blog updates on that, yeah, as well.
And the links will be in the description as well. Yeah,
Lovely.
so it'd be for your book to people buy your book, and obviously your website there as well, and any
Thank
other
you.
links that we need. So
Lovely. Yes,
great,
lovely.
thank you.
Well,